On June 13, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman were found brutally murdered at Nicole's home at 917 South Brandy Drive in Brentwood, Los Angeles, California. With both of their throats slit open, copious amounts of blood, and Nicole nearly decapitated, this was not random. This was a crime of passion. This very quickly led to accusations against Nicole's ex-husband and famous football player O.J. Simpson. Mass amounts of evidence were found, including multiple forms of DNA that point to Simpson killing Nicole and Ron. It was supposed to be a slam dunk case. Being fully aware of this, O.J. Simpson used his fame and fortune to get the best defense team money could buy, who in turn made the case entirely about race, skewing the facts and taking attention away from the real victims, Nicole and Ron. In the beginning of their relationship, what Nicole and O.J. had was sought after and highly publicized. They had 2 children, Sydney and Justin Simpson, during their 7-year-long marriage. These 7 years together, while adored by the public, proved to be a personal hell for Nicole, as she was allegedly abused by Simpson up to 60 times. She called the police multiple times regarding her abuse, and yet nothing was ever done to protect her.
911 emergency.
Can you get someone over here now to 325 Gretna Green? He's back. Please.
Well, okay, what does he look like?
He's O.J. Simpson. I think you know his record. Could you just send somebody over here?
Okay, what is he doing there?
He just drove up again. He just drove somebody over. Okay, first of all, he broke the back door down to get in.
What is he doing? Is he threatening you?
I'm going nuts. You're going to hear him in a minute. He's about to come in again.
Okay, just stay on the line.
I don't want to stay on the line. He's going to beat the shit.
Wait just a moment. Does he have any weapons?
I don't know.
Okay.
My kids are upstairs sleeping, and I don't want anything to happen. He broke the whole back door in. Practically knocked my upstairs door down, but he pounded it, and then he screamed and hollered, and I tried to get him out of the bedroom because the kids are sleeping in there.
What does he say?
What else?
Units, your domestic violence at 30 Correction 325 South Grizzly Greenway is now too high. The suspect is now entered in the jail. And it is refusing to leave. It's code too high. Incident 4221 RD 825. Children involved. Just stay on the line, okay?
In one case, Nicole called 911 after O.J. smashed her car with a baseball bat. When police arrived, they reported seeing her car windshield smashed and Nicole hysterically crying. When asked if she was okay, O.J. responded, "She's my wife, she's okay," and continued to say, "It's my car, I'll handle it. There's no problem here." She discusses the situation in a diary entry in which she writes that she came home late and that she was too scared to leave the car. In another incident, he ripped off her clothes and abused her so bad she went to the hospital and claimed her injuries were from a bicycle accident out of fear of upsetting him. She recounts vivid details of her abuse in which she states, "O.J. threw me up against walls in our hotel and on the floor. Put bruises on my arms and back. The window scarred me. Thought he'd throw me out. First time he beat me up, started on street corner in New York City. Threw me on the floor, hit me, kicked me. He continued to beat me for hours as I kept crawling for the door. Called my mother a whore, proceeded to call her and tell her that hit me while he." Other entries include details of Simpson kicking her out of the house while she was pregnant, yelling, "Get out of my house, you fat liar. And let me tell you how serious I am. I have a gun in my hand, get the out of here." And debatedly the most heartbreaking of all, Nicole writes, "I hated you so much, and since Justin's birth to the mad New Year's Eve beat up, I just don't see how our stories compare. I was so bad because I wore sweats and left shoes around and didn't keep a perfect house or comb my hair the way you liked it, or had dinner ready at the precise moment you walked through the door, or that I just plain got on your nerves sometimes. I just don't see how that compares to infidelity, wife beating, or verbal abuse. I called the cops to save my life, whether you believe it or not. When Nicole and Ron were found dead, there should have been no debate on who did it." The O.J. trial spanned 11 months, starting on November 9, 1994, and ending on October 3, 1995. For those 11 months, Marcia Clark, a Los Angeles Deputy District Attorney and the first and only woman in the LA Special Trials Unit, served as a lead prosecutor on the case as well as the only female lawyer out of the 12 in the courtroom. Joining her on the prosecution was Chris Darden. On the defense team that O.J. hired, often referred to as the Dream Team, 10 lawyers worked to defend him, including Johnny Cochran and Robert Shapiro. Throughout the entirety of the trial, Marcia Clark was degraded, publicly shamed, and criticized in everything she did, while the opposing counsel received little to no criticism.
I would never have taken that case if I had known that it would do what it did to my life.
There were so many times during that trial when I was in absolute spiritual, emotional, mental agony. You know, and I didn't think I could get up off the floor.
Because it was so traumatic. I mean, 15 months of trauma every single day. Nightmarish.
Not a single other person in that courtroom had their appearance discussed, but Clark's haircut in itself made headlines. And a jury consultant advised her to talk softer, dress softer, and wear pastels.
Even her hair became fodder.
On the record, what do you think of Marcia's hairdo? Marcia told me that her hair was naturally curly. She's been telling me that all along.
So you wore some suits.
I did.
During the trial.
I haven't worn them since either.
Really?
Yeah.
Could you believe how much attention what you wore and what you look like was getting? One day you write about, you get off the elevator, you wore a dress because that's what was clean. He wants to know what's the significance of the dress, Marcia?
I know, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, it was a white dress. Oh, it's a white dress. This means something. You know, and all the reporters are standing there with their microphones. Tell us what this means. Then it means it was clean. That's what it means.
Every aspect of her appearance was used to prove she was not professional enough to be handling this hefty of a case. Yet when she did her job virtually flawlessly and stuck up for herself after being repeatedly disrespected, she was labeled as hysterical by the defense team.
And Cochran's so condescending and patronizing. And we go to sidebar and I'm arguing against him. He starts calling me hysterical. I mean, Jesus, I've never seen anything like this. It's absolutely frightening. I mean, I don't know. I don't think we have come a very long way, baby.
In an interview with Time magazine, she claimed, "They tag you with ambitious as if it's a bad thing. You would never criticize a man for being ambitious, but with a woman it's a different story." While prosecuting O.J., Marcia was simultaneously going through a divorce, which deeply involved her children. The separation of her marriage and the fight to have full custody of her children was under mass public scrutiny, but mostly because the public could not understand how a woman could have an established career and a family at the same time.
Filing for divorce just 3 days before the murders, Marcia's role as a single mother became part of the courtroom drama. I guess I can't be here.
The witness makes a promise to you she'll come back, and they say, well, we can't do it tonight, Judge, because I got to pick up my children.
I'm offended as a woman, as a single parent, and as a prosecutor and an officer of the court to hear an argument posed by counsel like that of Mr. Cochran today.
During as well as after the trial, the public questioned the relationship between Clark and Darden, her fellow prosecutor. Every interview she is in circles back to whether or not there was a romantic situation between them, constantly shifting the focus off of her hard work.
Did
anything happen there? But like in real life, you made out?
We did take a trip to the Bay Area.
Yeah. So you made out?
Marcia Clark is an extraordinary woman, and I'm sure most of the men in this room will be attracted to Marcia when she appears on your show.
Worst of them all, Judge Ito constantly disrespected and humiliated Clark, all within the court of law.
That was the problem. He treated me like a second-class citizen. I was the one who got the roughest treatment, to such an extent that the president of NOW, the National Organization for Women, actually put together a video clip to show him, to say, hey, you need to stop it because you're treating her so poorly. And the jury...
His sexism, their sexism has gotten so irritating, and it's funny, you know, I mean, I never, used to cry sexism. This case is rampant with it. The judge makes these cute little corrections to me about person instead of manpower, person power, and that kind of shit. That's just a change of a word, Judge. How about your sexist attitude?
He addressed Mr. Cochran as Mr. Cochran and then Mr. Kardashian, but he called you Marcia.
Yeah. Mr. Cochran, Mr. Darden, Marcia. It was that. Yeah.
How'd How'd you feel about that?
Oh, I did not like it.
Did you ever pull him to the side?
I couldn't. You know, that's the problem. You can't, and this is what I talked to my friends about and all the women that I've talked to since. You can't call the sexist on his behavior in the moment. He's not going to believe it.
Furthermore, he asked about the hemline on her skirt and claimed it would be too distracting in the courtroom for the opposing counsel and the jury. Marcia Clark was and remains to this day very outspoken about the correlation between domestic violence and murder, stating domestic violence is a leading cause of injury to women. I don't think people were nearly as aware of the link between domestic violence and murder, although we were. At the time, the general public essentially brushed off the abuse Nicole faced and favored a known woman beater.
That jury believed he was innocent. They believed he was innocent, in spite of all the evidence.
Right. And?
You believe that is because he was a celebrity?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
To make matters worse, Johnny Cochran, the defense's eventual main attorney, also abused his wife. His ex-wife, Barbara Jean Berry, made multiple allegations similar to Nicole. And just like then, absolutely nothing was done. Berry filed a restraining order which was not granted and outlined her allegations, stating, "On April 29, 1967, my husband violently pushed me up against the wall, held me there, and grabbed me by my chin. He has slapped me in the past, torn a dress off me, and threatened on numerous occasions to beat me up." She went further to call him deceitful, manipulative, controlling, and abusive, and to say that he and Simpson were mirror images of each other in their apparent disdain for women. A woman beater defended a woman beater, and not only won the case, but received next to no scrutiny for it, while Marcia Clark was hated for her hair. If something was done about the abuse Nicole faced while it was happening any one of the over 60 times, then she would still be here today.
She was a lost little girl that ultimately found herself, but in the moment when she did, he killed her.
The justice system failed her. It failed Marcia Clark, and it failed the victims' families.
The above entitled action finds the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information.